You know, life assurance. It's one of those things a lot of us have, but do we really get how it works? I mean, how does an insurance company take something as unpredictable as a human lifespan and somehow turn it into a precise financial contract? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the elegant math behind that promise. It's a fascinating mix of probability, finance, and a little bit of looking into the future.
And really, that's the bottom line, isn't it? How do you put a price tag on a payout that's tied to the one event that is, for any one of us, completely uncertain? This is the exact puzzle that actuaries were basically born to solve. All right, so let's dive right in. We're going to start by breaking down how the industry takes this massive, messy uncertainty and turns it into a concrete financial calculation that actually works. And that right there is the real magic trick. The whole system is designed to take the chaos and randomness of when a person might pass away and somehow transform it into a predictable financial value that we can work with today.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. This sounds super complicated, right? But believe it or not, it all boils down to just two fundamental ingredients working together. Let's take a look at each one.
First up, we've got something called present value. It's a really simple idea. Money you have right now is more powerful than money someone promises you in the future. Why? Because you can invest that dollar today and let it earn interest. So, a big payout that's promised, say, 20 years from now isn't worth its full face value today. We have to discount it to figure out what it's really worth in today's dollars.
And the second ingredient? Probability. Now, here's the key. While we can never know when one specific person will pass away, actuaries use these massive data sets called life tables. And these tables let them predict, with amazing accuracy, the probability of someone of a certain age passing away in any given year. This is how they tame the uncertainty.
And here's where it all comes together. When you combine those two things, the time value of money and the probability of risk, bam, you have the absolute foundation of all life assurance.
All right, now that we have our two ingredients, let's actually build something. We're going to start with the simplest promise out there. It's called a whole life policy.
It works exactly like it sounds. The contract pays out a specific amount of money, they call it the sum assured, when the policyholder dies. And that's it. There's no time limit, no ifs, ands, or buts about when, next year, 50 years from now. The promise is good.
So how do they price this? They use a tool called the expected present value, or EPV for short. You can just think of it as the fair price for that promise today. It's calculated by looking at every possible year someone could pass away, figuring out the present value of the payout for that year, and then multiplying it by the probability of it happening in that specific year. Then you just add all those little pieces up.
Okay, theory is great, but this stuff really clicks when you see it work. So let's run through a simplified example from our source material. We're talking about a $50,000 policy for a 90-year-old, and we'll use a mortality table where, for simplicity, no one lives past 93.
Okay, so here's the game plan. First, you take the $50,000 payout, you figure out its present value if it's paid out a year from now. And then you multiply that by the probability of death in that first year. Got it? Then you just rinse and repeat for year 2. Find the present value for payout 2 years out, multiply it by that year's probability. You do it one last time for year 3, and then you just add those 3 weighted outcomes together.
And voila! The number you get is this, $45,054.53. This is how the math transforms that fuzzy future promise into a solid number we can use right now. It's brilliant.
Okay, so that's the basic building block. But what's really cool is when you start adding different rules to the game. That's how you get all the different kinds of insurance products out there.
For example, what if you put a clock on that promise? That gives you term assurance. Unlike whole life, this policy only pays out if death happens within a specific window, like 10 or 20 years. If you outlive the term, the policy expires and there's no payout.
Now, what's the flip side of that coin? It's something called a pure endowment, and it's pretty much the complete opposite. It's a promise that pays out only if you're still standing at the end of a specific term. One pays on death, the other pays on survival.
So, what happens if you smash those two ideas together? Well, you get an endowment assurance. This is a hybrid, best of both worlds kind of thing. It pays out no matter what happens first, either on death during the term or on survival to the end of the term. You're covered either way.
So far, we've been all about the expected present value, which is basically the average outcome. But if you're an insurer, just knowing the average isn't nearly enough. Averages can be really deceiving, and you absolutely have to understand the risk of things not going according to average.
Yeah, think of it like this. The EPV tells you the average temperature in a city is, let's say, 70 degrees. But that doesn't tell you if some days are a scorching 100 and others are freezing cold. That spread of possible outcomes, that's the risk, and it's measured with a statistical tool called variance.
In simple terms, variance is just a number that tells you how wild the swings might be. A low variance means the actual cost is probably going to be really close to the EPV average. But a high variance, whoa, that tells the insurer to expect a lot more unpredictability, and that means more financial risk. Managing this is critical, which is why they pool thousands of policies together, so the unexpected highs and lows can cancel each other out.
Okay, let's zoom out for a second. It's pretty amazing, isn't it? We've seen how a couple of core mathematical concepts can be used to build an entire financial industry, all based on managing one of life's greatest uncertainties.
So, to recap, it all starts with that elegant marriage of present value and probability. That combination gives us the expected present value, the fair price for the promise. From there, you just add different rules to create different products, like term or endowment policies. And finally, you use variance to actually quantify and therefore manage the financial risk the insurer is taking on. There's this quote from our source material that just nails it. The value of the payout is a random variable. That's a technical way of saying that its value depends on chance. The entire purpose of actuarial science is to create the tools needed to understand, price, and manage that randomness on a massive scale.
And that really leaves you with a fascinating final thought. This mathematical toolkit isn't just for insurance. It's a powerful framework for modeling and managing uncertainty itself. So if we can apply this kind of thinking to something as profound as mortality, what other huge, seemingly unpredictable challenges, from climate change to economic forecasting, could we begin to better understand and maybe even solve?